Hello, Soma. How are you?
Good morning, Orod. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm very happy today. It's a beautiful day in Melbourne. How is everything in Sydney?
Sydney is beautiful as always. It's 24 degrees at the moment, so yep, it's going to be
That's
a warm day.
that's good. All right. So last week, as you probably know, we had the last conference, and I talk about or basically I facilitated a workshop about Kanban myth.
Mhm.
And I'll talk about quite a lot of topic that we discuss in our podcast. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to know, what do you want to talk about? What is the myth that you want to talk about it today?
Actually, it's a question from someone. So let's talk about it and explore the question. So the question is expedite lane evil or expedite column evil?
Okay, so that's a question, not a statement.
Yes, that's a question.
Okay. All right, that's I think a good topic. I remember in Kanban, Australia, someone talk about let's remove expedite swim lane. So I think that can be a good topic to talk about. Um, so first let's talk a little bit about what is expedite first, and then when we clarify the definition of expedite, then maybe we can talk a little bit more about the consequence of having expedite and what problem it can cause
Yep.
or it cannot based on our experience. So as probably our audience know, Kanban use something we call it classes of service to help team to prioritize their work based on the cost of delay, which basically means how much we lose if we don't deliver this piece of work to the customer um, when customer expect it.
Yes, that's right.
And there are some work that we have to get them done or deliver them as soon as possible because the cost of delays are really high.
Hmm.
And basically, we call them expedite.
Yeah.
So expedite means drop basically everything else that you're working on and just focus on that work to get it out of the way and deliver to the customer because the customer is waiting for that and what we lose is really high. So for example, if people can't log in, right,
Hmm.
something like that, then it's really important and we doesn't matter how much work we have and everyone needs to focus on this work and deliver it.
Yeah.
But based on my experience, sometimes people think that everything can be expedited because everything is important. So if everything is important and everything must be expedited, that basically means that you have a very unstable system
Hmm.
and that's basically your standard work. It's not really expedite. So basically your standard works are always important and critical and the priority keep changing and you ask people to stop working on the current work and focus on something else.
Yeah.
In this case, uh, or if someone have this kind of problem, then probably I would suggest to forget about, you know, expedite or this and that, maybe focus to stabilize your product first. Because when you have a very unstable product, then you can't do anything about your system. You can't even improve. And probably the first step of the improvement is to stabilize your system.
That's right.
So that's, I think, a quick summary about what is the definition of expedite and when we can use expedite. So what do you think, Soma? What is your experience with expedite?
So let's go back from the beginning, where you started, the classes of service part. Yes, definitely. So the cost of delay for expedite is like, I like to always add the perspective of business impact. It is
Mm-hmm.
not only the customer wanted something and you have to deliver it, but also translate it to that what would be the business impact if you don't get that work delivered. at that given time. So when we classify something as expedite, the meaning is that if we don't deliver it, there will be a huge monetary reputational blow to the business. So the business impact will be really, really high, and we could lose a lot of money or reputation. And when we try to translate reputation, sometimes it does get translated to money or dollar value.
Sure.
Now, one of the example would be, let's say that, like you own a fine dining restaurant, you're the owner, and one fine day, the Prime Minister of Australia comes to you and they'll order something, So what would go to your mind is that, okay, this is the Prime Minister of India who doesn't come to me every day. I really have to prioritize this and make sure that, the customer experience is amazing. And if something else is getting delayed, I can take that. But for me, this becomes the highest priority, because if the Prime Minister of Australia decides to tweet about X, X about it, or even put it on any kind of social media, the impact to the business would be really huge. So in that case, what I would do as the business owner, I would always translate it, what would be the impact to our business, the customer impact, everything, and then I would prioritize that. Now, there was a question when I was discussing Expedite with some people. So I gave us very similar example that imagine, Prime Minister of Australia is actually ordering takeaway or whatever, and you will expedite that because the impact to the business will be very much. So that person, one person actually mentioned that, what if I get that kind of order every day? Now, it is really, really important to understand the difference. As you mentioned earlier, your system, understanding your system, the kind of work that gets into your system is really important. So if you keep getting those requests every day, they won't be expedite, because then your system will have to build in the capability to handle those requests, to deal with those requests. They will either move into standard or some other form of classes of service, because your system is expecting them on a regular basis.
Yep.
What expedite is, when we talk about Kanban system, it is a very rare and exceptional scenario. Because one of the other example would be, one of the outage that we had, network outage few weeks back, where every internet, connection were lost and everything. That is an expedite for the business, because it is going to get them a huge reputational blow to their, the business. So yes, they need to stop working on everything else and get to fix that, so that the customer can actually start using their services again. So this cannot happen on a regular basis. Now imagine if starts happening regularly. That means there is a huge flaw to how they are observing their system, or they are understanding their system. So first thing, expedite cannot be regular. It is not standard in your system. So standard is something which is very normal. So the rule to standard is first in, first out. You cannot apply the same kind of rule to expedite. The only reason is that the impact to the business will be so huge, you would rather stop working on everything else and work on this. So understanding our system becomes really important. So expedite lane or expedite swim lane or column, whatever, however way you are trying to observe this or visualize this, I wouldn't call it exactly evil, but I would say it is really something to be avoided, because if you keep getting more and more expedite, it's actually trying to tell you something. So listen to those clues about the system that you have built. That means there needs to be more investigation done, or what kind of work is getting into your system, why you are getting the expedite request. And most of the time, when we investigate those requests, it is not even expedited. Do you have any example on those?
So just to make sure that I'm clear, so what you're saying is, if we don't have expedite swim lane, then it kind of encourage people not to keep prioritizing and or change priority. right? If we have it, then business every day come and say, hey guys, this is high priority. A day after, this is the next high priority. Forget about what I said yesterday. So my question is, what will happen if we think this is an evil, right? So what will happen if we don't have it? All right. If you say, okay, guys, there is no expedite. We don't have any swim lane for expedite. So what do you think might happen?
Well, I mean, there then it will have to go through the other categories of classes of service.
Mm-hmm.
Will not go through expedite. However, I have a different opinion on that. I mean, I wouldn't call it really evil if you really understand what expedite means, because it will be so rare, you wouldn't
Okay,
even notice
I
that it's
see.
coming into your system.
So what you're saying is people think that expedite is an evil because they probably don't have clear understanding of the definition of expedite, and they just basically expedite everything.
Yes.
Okay, so by training them and make sure they are clear, or maybe have a explicit policy,
Yes.
and define it and communicate it well with everyone, then that problem can be resolved, which
Yes.
is true. But I want to look at it from different angle. And what you said, as I said, it's absolutely correct. But I would say, let's have the expedite.
Mhm.
And of course, you need to define it. You need to, communicate it. But then you might realize that frequently business come and ask you to, business or stakeholder or whoever, right, come and say, expedite this, expedite this, expedite that. And
Mhm.
then you realize that you have a lot of work or cards on expedite column,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because to me, this is the way to visualize your uh, the status of your system. So if you have a lot of work in expedite after you train people, that show you that you have a very unstable system,
Mhm.
or you don't have a proper prioritization process, right? Or as you said, maybe we need to focus on our upstream and make sure that things get expedite if they actually have the high cost of delay or has a big impact on the business,
Yes.
right? So um, back to your question, um, I think either way, so if you communicated and all those kind of things, expedite can show you what's happening on your system. And if
Yeah.
you have too much, rather than remove it or call it evil, then think about why you have too much on your expedite swim lane.
Yes.
Right? That I think that's a valid question you can ask your stakeholder and the team.
Yeah. Yes, and one of the other things, right? Like when we classify classes of service, we do a bit of like assessment of the impact.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't just classify, like if some, like for example, if you're coming to me and saying, so my expedited, I would ask you questions for it. Why, or what would be
Mm-hmm.
the impact?
Mm-hmm.
So all those things are really, really important. And it is very important for everyone who is listening to this episode to understand that it is not only the responsibility of your stakeholder
Mm-hmm.
to give you the right kind of expedite, but it is
Yes,
also the responsibility of the team to understand that what can become expedited and what is not
exactly.
expedited.
And
So
also, sorry, you continue.
I'm just saying it's a shared responsibility, and
Absolutely.
understanding the like importance and the impact of different categories is very important. So if you have too many expedited, that will show me few things. It could be like really not related to your system being stable or unstable.
Mm-hmm.
It could be just that, the definition is not aligned to what it
Mm,
should be. So everything is getting expedited because, there's no alignment between different stakeholders and the business value and the team. So the
absolutely. And
categories,
also another really powerful question is when someone come and say, you have to expedite this one, then you can ask that person and the team that, okay, what will be the impact? If we expedite this one, what's the impact on other work, right?
yes,
Because there is always an impact. And
of
let's have a conversation about the impact. We're happy to expedite this one, but the consequence will be something else will be delayed, right?
Yes.
And in fact, yesterday I will, deal with a similar scenario. Something happened, and then they come and say, "Can you please expedite this one?" And I say, "All right, yes, we can expedite it, but what will be the impact, right?" When we discuss about the impact, then the person who wanted to expedite this one come and say, "You know what? Yes, the other one, the other work that is already in progress has higher priority. So focus on that. When it's finished, then we can, look at this one." So basically we change it to a standard, because when something happened with a big impact, then people impulsively want to react. That this is, I think, the first reaction that we do, and it's a first natural reaction.
Definitely.
When we start talking about the impact on other work and the team and the entire system, then they have a chance to think about it a little bit with more detail and analyze, they analyze the consequences, and then they can make a better and more rational decision rather than have a impulsive decision.
Exactly. And another thing to add here, or really a good example, because this will lead us to understand the capacity reserved. So either capacity or WIP limit. So one thing that everyone needs to understand and know, you don't reserve any WIP limit or capacity for expedited. So when that is not because this is not normal, this is an exception. And when you are designing your Kanban system, your WIP limit, and how the team will work, if you have any kind of system where you are reserving capacity for like standard 40%, fixed date 20%, intangible, remaining, you don't think about expedite in your day-to-day. So whenever expedite will come into your queue, the first thing is that something else will have to give up, as you mentioned.
Yes.
That's really important to understand. And it is also very important to highlight it, make it visible to your stakeholder, as you did, that, okay, this would be the impact on other thing. If we are taking this on, this is what other things will have to either stop, delayed, or whatever.
Yeah.
Then it would help them to understand. So and even like Kanban says that don't reserve capacity or WIP limit for expedite because it's just exception. So evil is too hard. I would say if you understand expedite, like for example, if there is a production bug, the example you gave in the beginning, if people can't log into a banking, app, let's say, that would be a really expedited one, because for customers, especially for our generation, we do everything online. We don't go to the bank anymore.
Yeah.
Some of the banks don't even have a branch where people can come in. So the only way the customers can interact with bank is through that application or that website, and everything which is secure needs that authentication and login. So if that's not working for some reason, that means there's a huge impact, not only to the business but also to the customers, work maybe. Like they cannot do a transaction, they cannot pay bills, whatever it is. So if you think about that, at that point, really, you don't think about capacity or WIP limit. You think about this needs to be resolved right now, so that everyone can go back to their normal.
So you mentioned a really good point. In last episode, we talked about what is the right WIP limit. So the common practice or suggestion for WIP limit is for expedite is to basically have not more than one expedite work at a time. However, I would say let people to have it even more than one to show them that there is a problem in the system and think about what you can do to solve that. But what's suggested is not to have more than one work in
for the
expedite
whole
swim
sprint
lane at a
window.
time. Yes.
That's not part of the normal WIP limit for columns. This is a different swim lane.
Absolutely.
With just one thing at a time. And that is expected that this WIP limit will not be part of the normal WIP limit they have, which is for regular usage. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But yes, you cannot have 5 expedite things working at the same
Absolutely.
time. That will be evil.
That no, I wouldn't call it evil. I will call it an indicator or red flag to tell you that you have an unstable system or maybe not quite advanced prioritization process and things like that. So there is a problem basically.
Yes. So
Rather than call it evil and remove it, because if you remove it, it's like you hide the problem. So I
exactly.
would
Yeah.
prefer to see the problem rather than hide the problem. All
Yes.
right. So I think it's time to kind of wrap up what we discussed. So we talk about is expedite swim lane and evil. We define what expedite means. Expedite basically means that when something happened or raised by customer, the cost of delay from the beginning is really high and the impact on the business and customer is really high, and we have to prioritize it, basically drop everything else, focus on this one. We talk about not to have more than one work on your expedite swim lane. However, if you have too much expedite, rather than just hide it, make sure to have a meaningful conversation within your team and the business and the organization, and see what is the problem, what you can do to solve the problem or improve it. And is there anything else, Soma, you want to add?
Yes. I think we also discussed about aligning the definition of expedite within the team and also with your stakeholder so that everyone is on the same page. So if you have too many expedited items on your board, that could also mean that, there is a misalignment in the definition
Absolutely.
of what expedite
Perfect.
is.
Good one. All right. Thanks, Soma, and thanks everyone. I hope that episode was helpful. If you use Expedite, or if you had any good or bad experience, we will be more than happy to hear your experience about Expedite.
Yeah.
And we come back next week. And every time I say we come back next week, but last week we skipped
Yes.
because
We
we
will
were too
also be
lazy, I guess.
taking a small break for the holidays. So I hope everyone have lovely holidays, but we will come back with
Oh,
another
we still have a few weeks until holiday, Soma.
yes, before the
Don't
holidays.
go on holiday too soon.
Well, anyway, so thank you, Orod, and thank you everyone for
All
listening.
right. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Thanks.
Thank you.